All right, Tyson, we're back again. What do we have today?
Hey, today we've talked on this topic slightly, but I want to dive deeper a little bit and get more of your thoughts. Uh, Today we're talking about Ford discontinuing cars, except for the Mustang, and other manufacturers are kind of following suit a little bit in the U.S. And I also just read recently that they're now starting to slow their production of cars, Ford specifically in Europe, because they were still producing cars for the European market, but now they're starting to slow that a little bit as well, at least from what I read. But what are your thoughts on Ford going to an SUV, EV, and truck format only, except for the Mustang, their iconic one car? And why do you? I can read the official statements on why they said it, but why do you suspect they did this? Is there official statements true, Nick? Do you know what their official statements
Yeah,
were?
well, okay, so my opinion, I think the general push for it is the right push for Ford
You
because
think so?
they're well the majority of sales is trucks and the Mustang. Do I think they should have took out everything else? I think they probably should have kept like maybe like a Ford Focus. Um, and something smaller. Of course, they have the Ford Maverick, which is a smaller truck, but it's still under that truck.
It's still a truck. Yeah.
Yeah. But they need some smaller stuff, and they still do have the smaller vehicles here and there, but I think they need.
I can't
I don't
think of
think
a
they I don't.
single small vehicle from Ford now. Anyway,
Yeah, one of my coworkers, his son just bought a small Ford, but it's more of a racy type, a little small car, but it's like a little hatchback thing. But anyway, I can't think of the name off the top of my head. But I think there needs to be a little bit of variety, more, not much, maybe just one or two more vehicles. Um,
right.
because they made way too many. And I think like if we go back, and I know Thunderbird really isn't around much anymore. That just kind of came back and it went away. But I don't that and what was the Taurus? Those
Yeah,
ones, those big long vehicles. I don't think
the
anybody
Taurus
wants
was
those anymore.
ugly. Nobody wants a Taurus.
Well,
People
yeah, but
bought a
I'm just
Taurus
saying,
for necessity. But yeah,
yeah. So people they either want the big trucks, you know, which I'm not a big truck type of guy. I don't understand it. But I think they need. Oh, and they have the was it Explorer or
the Ford
the
Explorer though, even in
SUV.
the new Explorers, you look at those, they're big. And then yeah, you got the Bronco. But the Bronco, which was supposed
Yeah,
to be smaller, the
but are
Bronco's
those
still even decently sized. It's still big.
but yeah, but are those considered trucks?
They're
SUVs?
they're
I
on the
don't
same
know.
chassis. They're
Yeah, that's
SUV.
what
They're on the
I'm
same
just I'm
chassis that
just
they put some of their other trucks on.
but I'm just saying. So I don't know, but I think they have a good spread, but I think they need smaller vehicles. You know, like way in the back in the day. And this is like in the '60s because they had the Mustang, then they had the Ford Maverick, and then they
Yep.
had the Pinto. Um, I think they kind of need to bring. I'm not saying but that Pinto small car that maybe that's too small, but they need to bring down one down from the Mustang
Yeah.
for young kids can get in it, and
Well, if we're talking just pure size, let's not talk dollar amount.
okay,
Even
pure
the
size.
Mustang, right? Well, just for a second, we can talk about. I don't want to dismiss the dollars, but even the Mustang, you look at it as a muscle car. It's a big car. Like I know it's only technically a two seater. I mean, yeah, it's got a crap back seat. It's a two-door coupe, supposedly, right? But like you park it next to some of these cars, it's still really long. I've driven a couple. I do a lot of rental cars, and they're long. And so they're not, even though you think small with a Mustang, they're not small like they were in the 80s or 90s. They're still actually, these remake cars are decently sized.
Yeah,
So,
that has a lot to do with safety standards and stuff, though.
oh
Unfortunately,
yeah,
because
the crumple zones and stuff, but also there's, I just saying they're not a small car. They're not a fuel efficient car. They're, so I think there is a need for, I mean, we see like the smart car and stuff here, and we all kind of joke about those, but there's a market for that here.
Okay.
Whether
So
it's on the same standard as the Ford F-150, no.
here's a good example. So they, instead of offering the Mustang with like a V6, do a whole different car and just make the Mustangs V8, and whatever,
Yeah, yeah. I
And personally,
honestly,
where they made the EV Mustang, which really isn't a Mustang to
no,
me,
it's an
I think that's
SUV.
kind of, yeah. I
It's an
mean,
SUV, and
I
once
don't I
again,
don't like
we
I don't like I don't like how they're, and the Corvette kind of wants to do this too. They want to make a Corvette SUV, and I'm like, well, no,
no.
they want to make Corvette its own brand. They want to make Mustang its own brand. See, Lamborghini,
It
that's
was always
their,
its own brand.
yeah, exactly.
It was always
So
a Lamborghini Diablo, Lamborghini Countach, a Lamborghini, you know, Mura. It was always
yeah,
Lamborghini
exactly,
was the brand. It's never been the Corvette. I mean, yes, you got the
exactly.
Corvette ZR1, the Corvette Stingray, the Corvette
Yeah, yeah.
LS.
And
It's
same thing with the Mustangs with the GTs and the
right,
GT
but they're
500 Chevys, blah blah blah.
but
But
that's just a performance model or a different package
right,
of the car. It's not the different car.
right, exactly. So I don't. That's what I don't like what they're doing. Um, to say a Mustang and it's an EV SUV, you're going what? But other than that, I don't. You know, that's my thoughts on with Ford anyway. But I don't know.
Right. I think I'm not going to like obviously the Ford F-150 they've been pounding in our head and I'm sure it's true. The best selling truck or number one selling truck for 70 years straight or whatever, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not 70, but it's a long time. It's 40 or 50. It's up there, right? Obviously make that vehicle. But and I'm not against the other ones, but I sus- I agree with you like with the Mustang itself. First of all, they do this with other vehicles. Once their SUVs, a lot of their SUVs do use the same chassis as their trucks to save money. A lot of car companies do that. A lot
Yeah,
of
they use the same
manufacturers,
parts.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
same parts at least, and then it's a different body and possibly different engine and stuff like that. So it would be very, very easy if they're making the Mustang chassis to make well, in my opinion, a Ford Maverick or whatever, not the truck, but the
Yeah,
lower
yeah.
level
We're. Mhm.
Mustang entry, right? Or something like that. And yet they're literally producing a chassis. Now, for all I know, because the chassis is so long, maybe that is the same chassis they're putting their like the Ford Maverick, the truck chassis
Well,
on.
trucks maybe the chassis, but with the cars, they're unibodies, so it's a little different. But yeah, but they still share
They
a
still
lot
can do
of the
it.
same parts.
They
Yeah.
can
Oh
still
yeah.
do it. And but it's once again, it's not only it's like Ford is the one that's come out officially and they say, oh, it's due to market trends, etc. Um things, but I
Well,
find it interesting. The US, we have continually despite fuel crises supposedly impending, stuff like that. And yeah, that's not happening now. I remember there was always fear we're going to run out of oil stuff. Um, but we continually go bigger and bigger with our vehicles.
it's because
Like you
we're
look at a
Americans,
vehicle
damn it.
today, right? You look at a truck today compared to a truck in the 90s, the 80s, the 70s. You look at cars, you look at SUVs. They're all bigger, and yet the rest of the world is going smaller. And we sit there and everybody like it's on the news constantly, the cost of gas at the pump, etc. And we actually have gas decently cheap compared to a lot of countries. So we all want to complain about how much gas is, and yet we want to dismiss
Well,
vehicles like the Pinto. And
I
maybe the
don't.
Pinto is not the
Yeah,
greatest
yeah.
example because it blows up, or it was known to. It didn't actually do it all that much. But you know, where is the why are we so differently minded and why are our car
Well,
manufacturers
a
different?
lot of it is because we're a younger nation and our infrastructure we're more widely spread apart. When we built our roads and highway infrastructure, we actually designed them to be bigger. Um, you go back to Europe, and I mean, some of these places, the roads have been there for thousands of years, so the streets are really tiny. I don't know because we both went to Greece, And I don't know if you notice how small those roads are there,
Yeah,
but
the roads
they
in the
just
city are, but I mean,
but
I've been to a
but
couple of
that's my
cities
point.
here. You go back east. There's some cities that,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
like we built
but
around it, but they're not. But let's even talk about between cities real quick. And this is a car show and not be political, but Europe, and I'm trying to leave the political out of it. Europe went more trail system, and they succeeded at it. Where instead we did a highway
but
system.
but they're smaller. They're geographically they're way smaller.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Europe overall
I mean,
geographically
you could
smaller,
fit you
but
could probably
rails
fit
can
all
cover
of
the
Europe in
U.S.
Texas.
Rails cross China, rails cross other countries as well. They just I'm not it's not a why they did it. It's just they did this. We went car wise. And so now the main transport in the US is cars. And maybe that's the answer is because we're more apt to do road trips. We need a big comfy car to drive 8 hours in versus them hopping on a train. I don't know, but
Well,
it's
that's
interesting
what.
that we have gone away from it.
But why would you take a train when you can get on a plane? You know, that's kind of the point. That's
Because it's
kind of why.
cheaper or in Europe. Not here.
Eh,
Not here.
um,
In Europe, it's cheaper
yeah, yeah, but like I said, smaller.
and
Like
just as
if
fast.
if everybody in the whole United States was in the size of Utah, then yeah, okay, that'd make total sense. But you know what I'm saying?
Well, Europe's bigger than Utah.
I know, but Texas, Alaska, you know what I'm saying? The United States is huge, so
Yeah,
I think that's the
but once
main
again, you can go
problem
from
with it.
Hong Kong to other cities in China almost just as fast as a plane now, and those are huge distances. China's big.
Yeah,
I
but
think they
anyway,
said like the train is an hour longer, and this is not a train show. I like trains.
we're way off
Right, we're way
topic.
off. More
What was
so,
the
it's
topic
just
again?
the topic is Ford specifically going away from cars. Why
Oh,
they did
okay.
it, and is it a bad deal? So it sounds like you're saying you agree with their decision to go more truck, more SUV, and eliminate cars, despite maybe having one smaller car. Where I argue as a car person, I don't like trucks. I think there's a market for cars here, and I wonder if it's because you can. It's not because they're selling more, but they push these bigger platforms because they're in a way easier to make, cheaper to make, less regulations to make. I it could be any of those. I'm not going to go down rabbit holes and say they are, but in my mind, I disagree with with a manufacturer saying cars aren't worth it in the US. I feel they're trying to drive our market to something possibly, or maybe I'm just out of touch. But
I yeah, I think
I
you
think
might be out of touch because
I
I
think
people
we
just
have
aren't buying
cars.
them. Yeah,
People
people just
are buying
aren't.
them though, but okay, we can go to the whole supply and demand. If I go to buy a vehicle, it's much harder to buy a car now. People are buying them because they're the thing offered. If I want to buy American, I've got to buy a truck or an SUV.
So just being funny and
Sure.
facetious. So you're up in Utah, and you know the Mormon families have like 20 kids. They need big vehicles.
Well, yeah, we've always had the Tahoes or what are those Suburbans. Funny story. My in-laws own a Suburban, right? Classic Mormon vehicle, basically a seat, whatever. And they're selling their small car, and they're all their kids are growing up adults. And I said, why aren't you going to sell your Suburban? And they said they need a Suburban to pull their boat. They need a big vehicle to pull their boat.
Yeah,
And they don't have that big of a boat. It's a decent sized. They're not pulling, a yacht. Um, and part of me is like, you could do that with a truck or something. Why do you need a vehicle that seats 8 people to pull your boat when you could do it with a? Honestly, I think a Ford Maverick could pull their boat. But that's
probably.
it's kind of a mindset, and I'm not trying to dismiss or make fun of my in-laws here because I think that's a mindset that a lot of people have. That's once again been either sold into our psyche because if I have like an RV, I need a truck to pull my RV. We own an RV for a little bit, and the first thing that went through my head when we own that RV is I need a bigger vehicle. And
Yep.
then you look at Europeans, and they're towing them with little freaking smart cars. Seriously,
Yep.
and they're decently sized RVs. So it's just like, why do we have that mindset? Like, we need to go bigger for whatever reason, and yet everybody else can make these little cars work. And maybe it's just we're
For
American. We
so
got to go
so
big.
for RVs and the American way though, I mean, yes, you can pull a vehicle, with a with a smaller engine and stuff. But if you have the bigger vehicle,
Well, yeah.
it does make pulling it way easier. So
Well, yeah, I've pulled with small vehicles and I've pulled with big, but like my
yeah.
grandpa had a little small Dodge, and it was small. Like they don't offer this size of truck anymore. And it pulled decently sized trailers though just fine, to be honest, and compared to like his Ford
It
F-150, which is
yeah,
now a small vehicle.
it just it depends on the weight, but yeah. But anyway, so anyway, kind of my closing thought though is yes, I think they did kind of the right thing for the most part, but I think they just need a little bit more variety. I wish they wouldn't have named that SUV a Mustang. I think it would
Yeah,
have
I
been.
don't like this is a whole nother topic, but I'm gonna agree with you. The whole bringing back or renaming vehicles with names that were something else. The Mustang, that SUV,
Yeah.
EV should be a Mustang. The new Ford Maverick, I actually like that truck. Shouldn't be a Maverick. Should be named something else. And are we out of just names? Because we got Chat
Well,
GPT now. We can come up
I
with
think,
names.
I think a lot of it is it, for the Ford Maverick. They already had they've kept the licensing and the trademark and everything. So, and it just sounds good, Ford Maverick. Not just because I had one,
I
but
say you're a little
the
bit of
old car, not the
fanboying
truck.
there. I don't think they're not even using the same badge or anything to my knowledge or anything like that. It's just Ford. They just put a Ford on there. Licensing and trademark, they can. You're telling me the Ford Money Motor Company is trying to save nickels and dimes on reusing a trademark they probably had to renew anyways because it's probably expired from the 80s versus create a new one? I disagree. I think I think they were going after people that were nostalgic over the old Ford Maverick. I'll be honest. I think that was their goal, and not to save money or because they had that. It's Ford. They can afford a new name. I think it's a terrible branding idea, but hey, it might actually work.
Yeah, I agree. They need different names. But yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
anyway, that's my closing thoughts. What's yours?
I
Just that?
am obviously disagreement. I like cars. I think we are too truck dependent. I get annoyed with how many trucks are on the road now when I live in the city. I don't mind them out on the farm. Uh, I disagree. So I feel that people are going to buy what's offered out there, and if they only
And
offer this and they know they have the power, they're going to buy it.
we have to bring up one last thing before we go. It's all about demographics too, because you live up in Utah, and there's a lot of outdoor stuff and everything up there. But if you go
Yeah.
to a major city like LA, you're not going to see a ton of trucks.
Oh, I
So,
disagree. Actually, I travel a fair amount, and I go to Chicago. I go to LA. I was actually just in California recently. It's still more and more SUVs and trucks everywhere.
SUVs for sure, but I'm just saying trucks.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think SUVs are in the US, and I'm sure we can pull numbers, but I'm going to take a stab at this and guess there are more SUVs than trucks in the US.
Oh, for
That's my
sure.
guess.
Easy.
And I
Easy.
live in a place that's probably got more trucks than SUVs because yeah, even though I'm in the populated area of Utah, like 90% of the population lives within this area that I'm in, this 100-mile span. It's still not very far to the farms. It's not very far to the
Yep.
country.
That's what
And
I'm saying.
Utah very much pushes this, outdoors life, which I actually love about this place. But so trucks are probably a little more popular here, yes. But still the SUVs versus the trucks versus the cars. I miss seeing more cars. One, because SUVs are all boxy. Once again, we're changing the hood, we're changing the grill. So,
Yep.
and we've talked about this, so it's less variety. Uh, it's harder to see around because when you're in a car, they're harder to see around, and because these SUVs and stuff are so high up, and they make people feel safer, even though their center of balance is off, they actually make everybody that's in a car less safe because the crumple zones
Yes.
don't line up, right?
Yes, I agree.
So, and that, I think that's where I have a problem is now we all gotta basically, if we all want to be safe, we've got to conform.
Yep. Well, and all right. Well, we've
And
gone way over.
like, yeah, I'm sure we're over. I
Yeah.
obviously very opinionated on this subject. So I'm
Yes.
thank you, Nick, and thank you, audience, for listening to me get on my soapbox once again about my opinions that nobody I'm sure agrees with, or maybe one person out there is like, yes, but hey, this is what we do this for. At least this is my opinion. Until Nick tells me afterwards that, hey, maybe not. Just joking. I'm sure this is.
Nah, it's fine. So like I said, we're being unfiltered here, and like because you're gonna get both opinions. So we'll leave it off that. We'll leave it off on that. So we'll see you guys next time.
Drive safe, everybody.